The Green New Deal.
The Green New Deal.
Green New Deal.
The Green New Deal.
The president last night railing against this Green New Deal.
Hello everyone, Rosie here. So I want to step a little outside my normal wheelhouse for a minute and talk about politics. In particular, the Green New Deal. You've heard of the Green New Deal. I know you have. You've probably seen a lot of talk about conservatives not liking it, or whether it hurts or helps Democrats running for office, and whether or not it means that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is trying to ban hamburgers. You know, all the partisan spins on it. Someone tweeted something dumb about it, and AOC tweeted back, and it was funny because she's great at Twitter. But what is the Green New Deal? What is it? What does it say or do? Unfortunately, in this era of hyper-partisan entertainment news, that's not talked about as much. Like, I know none of the news that I saw about it really explained any of that. I had a vague idea that it was some kind of legislation about climate change, and that's it. And with Fox News constantly pumping out clickbait about how AOC wants to ban all cars and other networks reporting on that inaccurate spin, it's hard to focus on what this piece of legislation actually says. So I found it, and I read it. It's only 14 pages, and I'll link it down below, but I want us all to talk about it together. So let me start by saying that the Green New Deal is not a bill and does not represent a potential law or collection of laws. It is not a joint resolution. It's not even a concurrent resolution. The Green New Deal is what we call a simple resolution. To quote House.gov, a matter concerning the operation of either the House of Representatives or Senate alone is initiated by a simple resolution, and they are not presented to the President for action. What this means is that a simple resolution is a proposal for just the House or just the Senate regarding issues, conduct, rules, and priorities that only affect the House or Senate. It's an agreement of priorities, not a set of laws to be enacted. And the Green New Deal is actually a pair of simple resolutions, a House resolution put forward by AOC and a simple Senate resolution submitted by Ed Markey. So, the Green New Deal is not a bunch of laws regarding climate change. It's basically a statement that, if adopted, would say that the House and/or Senate is going to prioritize working on legislation along these lines. It's like a promise to start writing laws about climate change. That said, what specifically does the Green New Deal hope to focus on? Well, let's look at it piece by piece. So it starts by summarizing the findings of 2 climate change reports put together by various agencies. This talks about how bad climate change currently is and what economic and environmental impacts it could have on the US. It talks about everything from increased wildfires and depleted coral reefs to the loss of billions of dollars to infrastructure damage and revenue loss. It then argues how these impacts create a direct threat to the national security of the US and that we should take action. Specifically, a declining life expectancy while basic needs are becoming increasingly inaccessible to all Americans, a labor crisis that includes wage stagnation and anti-labor policies, and massive wealth inequality. It clarifies that climate change is and will exacerbate these problems further, especially for already vulnerable populations. So, if the resolution is passed, it would obligate the House and/or Senate to create a series of Green New Deal programs, and then it lists some areas in which legislation should focus. So these are the 5 major goals of the resolution. 1. Zero greenhouse emissions. 2. Create job security for Americans. 3. Invest in infrastructure. 4. Secure for future generations clean air, water, access to nature, and a sustainable environment. And 5, promoting justice for vulnerable communities, such as racial minorities, migrant communities, people with disabilities, the elderly, etc. There's a whole list of these. So those are the big goals of the Green New Deal. It then says that this should be a 10-year mobilization, so the House and/or Senate should start working on 10 years worth of programs to support these goals. That will require the following kinds of projects to meet those goals. So, preparing for climate disasters, improving infrastructure, prioritizing zero-emission energy sources, which includes promoting clean energy manufacturing, working with farmers to make farming more sustainable. This is where people freak out about banning hamburgers, I think. I don't know. Overhauling transportation systems, improving public transit and high-speed rail, programs that would address the health impacts caused by climate change, programs to remove carbon from the atmosphere, such as afforestation, which is planting new forests, restoring threatened ecosystems, cleaning up hazardous waste, identifying other pollution sources and removing them, promoting the exchange of climate science with other countries. So these are the big how statements. We will meet our big goals by doing these sorts of things. So then, the Green New Deal goes on to talk about how to begin working on these things. It talks a little about how the House and Senate should consult experts, communities, unions, and businesses when crafting this legislation, etc. It then lists a whole bunch of things to basically keep in mind when writing future legislation. These are like the checklist that all new legislation to meet those goals should do. So it talks about how all new potential legislation should benefit the communities it impacts, how it should consider how it will interact with existing laws, how we need to provide education and training for people, especially vulnerable communities, to benefit from and be part of these programs. This is the part that mentions higher education for all Americans. Invest in research and development, invest in projects that will improve the economy, that all the steps in the process should be democratic, that all jobs created by these programs should be high-quality union jobs and pay a living wage and strengthen the right to unionize, to favor trade and labor laws that will help U.S. workers, to ensure public lands aren't abused, to prevent monopolies, and provide people with healthcare, housing, and economic security. And that's it. That's the 14-page resolution document. It has the big goals, it has ideas as to what kind of projects would meet those big goals, and then it has guidelines for those projects. So, let's summarize. The Green New Deal is not a law banning hamburgers or cars or anything else. It isn't a law at all. The Green New Deal is a simple House resolution and a simple Senate resolution that, if passed, would focus the House and/or Senate on crafting legislation that would combat the environmental and economic impacts of climate change. That's it. It's just like a promise to work on this stuff instead of ignoring it. And personally, I think it's a really well-written resolution. It's very careful in how it words things. The phrase, "as much as technologically feasible," is used often to ensure that action isn't delayed because we want to wait for some future scientific advancement, that we should do what we can now. The resolution is careful to emphasize that future action should benefit the working class people and vulnerable populations, so it doesn't just become a money-making machine for megacorporations. It is both thorough in its scope and aspirational in its vision. Now, none of that isn't to say that there's no valid criticism of the Green New Deal out there. The one that I have seen that makes the most sense is that this is a very domestically focused resolution that arguably doesn't do enough to address how foreign countries, including our allies, contribute to climate change. And while I think that some adjustments could be made here to bolster that focus, I don't think it's a deal breaker. That's just me. And it's so strange to see people so wildly misrepresented. Some of that boils down to a rough draft FAQ that was up on AOC's website for a while, but it was a rough draft FAQ. We have the actual document now. It's not that long, and it's not that hard to understand, and yet, still, somehow, quote, working collaboratively with farmers and ranchers in the United States to remove pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from the agricultural sector, end quote, gets translated as outlawing cows and banning hamburgers. The document is not that long and not that confusing. These clickbaiting hot takes by conservative pundits are a willful misrepresentation to inspire fear, outrage, and confusion. Also, just let's be real, even if it did say that, if I have to choose between feasting on hamburgers in a desolate wasteland of a planet, or eating almonds and still having a breathable atmosphere, that shouldn't be a hard choice. And honestly, left-leaning politicians are doing kind of a terrible job of correcting all this. It's frustrating. I don't really understand why getting correct information out about this resolution is so hard. Maybe it's just not interesting enough to cover facts to be worth the screen time that could be used having 6 people yell over each other about what dumb shit the Tangerine Menace tweeted last night. But stop letting people misquote the rough draft FAQ out of context. Talk about the actual resolution and what it actually says. My least favorite critique is that the resolution doesn't go into actionable specifics. Guys, it's not supposed to go into actionable specifics. All it's supposed to do is say, hey, we promise to start working on a plan for actionable specifics real soon. That's the point. And if, hopefully when, it passes, then we can nitpick all the specifics about the individual pieces of legislation that are intended to address these issues. No, it doesn't discuss funding or logistics. All of that will come later. That's kind of the point. We need to do this groundwork first. And yes, it is aspirational legislation, much like the Green New Deal it is named after. When big, tremendous problems face our country, big, tremendous actions are needed to combat it. We need our legislators to focus on this. We need climate change to be a priority because we are running out of time to put actionable plans in place. The Green New Deal will not solve climate change, but it would obligate our government to try. It's a good thing. Contact your congresspeople. The House website has a link to help you do this. The Senate one does too. I'll leave links down below in the comments for both. And really, I know we all hate making phone calls, but they are more effective than email or even letter writing. Just call the number. Say you are a constituent, you are very concerned about climate change, and you hope that your congressperson or senator will support the Green New Deal. It's all you have to do. If enough of us make a stink, it could sway some folk. You elect these people. They know you elect them. Let them know your priorities. Thanks for watching this video. I know it's pretty different from my regular stuff, but if you liked it, let me know. And if you have suggestions for more videos like this, I'd love to hear them. But really, if you liked hearing this queer millennial feminist rant for a few minutes, do all the YouTube stuff, and be sure to check out my Patreon, where you can vote on an upcoming video.